So anyways,
I'm not going to get it.
The creature's name is Steve.
Okay, Steve. Kind of like Jaws is named Bruce. Okay.
Right. Jaws is named Bruce. This
Bruce
creature is
Steve.
named Steve.
All right, Bruce and Steve.
Hey peeps, this is the Scary Movie Project, the podcast where we talk about scary movies, share our perspectives as filmmakers, and eat instant ramen and our spoilery spoilers. I'm Tara.
Hello, friends and relishes. My name is Matt. I'm happy to be joining you on this day. I thought that I should probably tell you that a monster emerges from Seoul's Han River and begins attacking people. Mm-hmm. One victim's loving, I'm going to do Christopher Walken, I felt like. One family's loving family does what it can to rescue her from its clutches. That probably wasn't very good, but I tried.
That was recognizably Christopher Walken.
It's a monster in a river. All right. 2006 Korean film, The Host. I want to kind of be clear. I think there's like a couple different iterations or remakes of this?
There's not remakes, but there's a recent movie named The Host.
Okay.
That's more about, I think it's like about the pandemic, and it's like about people online on like a Zoom type of meeting. Okay. So there is another movie that's recent called The Host. This is not that.
Yes, that's like okay, I see what you mean.
This is the South Korean movie directed by Bong Joon-ho. I'm going to murder a million names tonight, so be ready for that. They're all going to die.
Was this a Tara pick? Was this a fan listener pick? Where did we get this one?
This was a Tara pick.
I enjoyed it very much. This first time I've seen it, it was good.
I love this movie. So Bong Joon-ho also made Parasite. Which just came out like, 2 years ago?
And I still have not seen that film.
Oh, Parasite's great too.
Did it win Best Picture? It did, right?
Did it?
Yes. I swear to God it did. Look it up.
Maybe it did.
Look it up.
I think it might have. I think you're right.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to the Oscars, except that I do know that there was a physical altercation at this year's Oscars.
Care about that. I don't care about them either because they don't recognize horror. And when a film like
no.
And when a film like Silence of the Lambs wins, they call it a thriller.
Right.
They reclassify, or an incredible movie wins best costume, or they don't recognize. So until they recognize them, then I'll stick to the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. Thank you very much. So.
I will stick to the SAG Awards because
there you go.
Actors recognizing actors is where it's at.
That's right. Anyway,
and I'm sure like the Writers Guild Awards and the Directors Guild Awards are awesome too.
All those. Blah, blah, blah. Remember the MTV Movie Awards? They had like this. The award was like an astronaut with like an MTV flag or something.
Yes, I do remember that award.
Do they still have that? No, they don't do that anymore.
How about the Razzies? Those are still around.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the Razzies.
I don't think you want to win one of those. I was sad because
I just saw that Jared Leto got a Razzie.
Jared Leto's awesome.
He got a worst
supporting
actor for House of Gucci. No, you don't. It's a worst supporting actor award.
Yeah.
He was so good in House of Gucci. Anyways, we are off topic.
I love Jared Leto's money. One of my favorite movies is Requiem for a Dream, and he's amazing in that movie. And he's like a pretty dope like musician too, right?
I don't know.
I think 30 or what's his band? Something Mars, 30 Seconds to Mars or something like that.
I don't know. I just know he's a great actor.
Yeah, he's good.
He's a chameleon. He's really good.
We should. I know it's not necessarily what happens in the movies is horrible, but we should talk about Requiem for a Dream like one day. That's
Oh God. I don't know if I can stand to watch that again. It was so depressing.
Oh, but it's so you want to take like 5 showers afterwards, right?
It's so good, guys. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely a one and doneer. It's like watch it once.
One and done. I've seen it like 18 times.
Oh my God. I loved it for once, but after that, like I was like, I can't ever watch this again. It is too like wrenching for me.
But I will say, if you think your life sucks, by the end of it, you won't think your life sucks anymore because once you see what happens to these people, you're like, nah, I'm not so bad.
Nope. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost in the realm of horror.
Well, what's happening?
Just for
That's
how
real life.
horrible everything is.
That's real life horror. What happens to those people? Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
definitely.
we're here to talk about The Host. So let's keep going.
Anyways, so Bong Joon-ho directed The Host. He also wrote it along with Won Jun-ha and Chul Hyun-baek.
Okay, so far so
I'm
good.
sorry,
No,
I'm saying all these wrong. I think.
I think you're doing well.
Just a word to the wise, a warning, if you will.
Warning.
It is subtitled.
Yes.
You will not know it when you first start watching it because in the very first scene,
that's right,
they speak English, and you will be like, "Oh, it's in English," and then after that scene, it is not in English anymore.
Not so much. No. That's
so
all right.
Just be aware. You
Don't
can't
be
be like
lazy.
messing on your phone or as I would knitting while you're watching this movie. You need to look at the screen.
You need to pay attention and know, I don't want to hear anybody complain about they don't watch movies with subtitles. So deal with it.
Oh no, subbed over dubbed all the way.
Yeah, go for it.
That's an old anime argument. I used to, back in my anime days, we used to argue, is subbed or dubbed better, and subbed all the way subtitles.
Okay.
You want to hear the original voices.
Yeah.
That's so nerdy, I know. But
no, but I agree with that. That's yeah.
Yeah, you want to hear the original actors doing their thing. So
it's like listening to a like a live event that's maybe translated from a language. I don't understand the language of the person maybe that's speaking in their native language, but I want to hear a little bit of their background audio with the translation. I want to hear that.
Right. I want to hear their emotion. I want to hear their tone, their feelings. You can get a lot from that.
Well,
I think even in languages where we don't always use the same kind of tonality, you can still get a lot from that, I think.
Yeah, we do a lot of, where I work, we do a lot of language translation for live events, productions. And I like to hear the actual person speaking a little bit too.
What, Matt? This isn't your full-time job?
Well, it will be. It will be when we get enough people to support us. Yeah.
Someday, 6 listeners, please. Our 6, or are we up to 7 now? Our 7 listeners?
It might be.
Please tell your friends so we can do this full time.
Please.
So anyways, it does open with, in English, with 2 men in a morgue.
Now, the old white guy, you know who that is? Well, okay, no, you know what? You won't.
Oh, no, I forget. Tell me.
You won't, because you're a hater. But to everyone else besides Tara, who actually likes The Walking Dead, like me, that is Herschel. That's Herschel, the dad who runs the farm from the early seasons of The Walking Dead.
Yeah, no, I have no idea who that is.
Yep. So anyway.
Sorry, friends, I am not a Walking Dead fan.
We only have a handful of episodes left.
Like ever?
Yeah, this is it.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, no. What's a shame is that you don't watch it. That's what's a shame.
That's a crying shame that it's ending. Oh,
a horror
too
fan.
bad.
A horror fan who doesn't watch The Walking Dead. Wow.
Because it's not a horror. It's a soap opera.
Zombie soap opera.
It's a soap opera that just happens to have zombies in it.
It's so good.
It is not actually a horror show.
Pretty damn good.
At least not the first 4 episodes.
Pretty good though.
Maybe someday I'll try it again, but I couldn't make it past first episode.
Hey,
the first 4 episodes the first time.
It's not for everybody. It's all good.
I also couldn't do We're All Dead Here. Or
I've never heard of that.
We're All Dead. I think it's a Korean TV show. There was one scene that was a little too much for me in the first episode, and I was like, I can't
handle this.
It wasn't like horror. It was cruel, and I was like, I can't.
Okay.
I can't do this.
I gotcha. Not for everybody.
Anyways.
Continue.
Anyways, we're here to talk about The Host.
Let's.
And unlike usually when we go off topic and don't talk about the movie, it is not because this movie is not good. It's just great. Today because we're both straying from the path a lot.
I'm gonna just shut my mouth and let's continue.
So 2 men are in a morgue, and the American tells the Korean man to pour the formaldehyde that's gone bad down the sink.
Great idea.
And the Korean man, Mr. Kim, he objects because it'll all go into the Han River, but the American orders him to. So then next thing we see is Mr. Kim pouring bottles down the sink, and it's not like
Like
it's not
150
3 or 4
bottles.
Yeah, it's like
It's hundreds of bottles.
It's like hundreds of bottles.
It's like this tracking
of
shot,
bad
just like
formaldehyde
glides.
that he's
oh
just
my God.
pouring straight down the sink.
Like,
Now,
terrible idea.
Now, as much as we laugh and we say this is a terrible idea, this actually happened in 2000 at a U.S. military facility.
It probably happens all the time in places. I mean,
it happened in Seoul. And a U.S. civilian employee from the military. His name was Mr. McFarland.
Oh boy!
And he was told to dispose of the formaldehyde by dumping it into the sewer system that led to the Han River, which is where it goes in the movie.
There you go.
And his subordinate, who was from South Korea, said no.
Right.
And the government tried to prosecute him, but the U.S. military wouldn't hand him over. So a South Korean judge just found him guilty in absentia. And like the public was really mad about the whole thing, like the South Korean public, they were really mad about the whole thing. And then 5 years later, Mr. McFarland finally went to court for real, and he was found guilty, but he never served his prison sentence.
Okay, hey.
So this actually happened. As far as we know, there was no monster created by it.
Damn.
But it did happen.
Okay. Crazy.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
So the next thing we see is 2 men fishing in the Han River, and they find a little small mutated animal in the water. And I love it. The guy gets it in his cup and they're like looking at it, and then it moves and he drops the cup and he's like, oh, no. Oh, I thought I had lost that cup. I think his kid gave it to him or something like that. Yeah.
Gave it to him or something.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, thank goodness. And then the next thing we see is 2 men running out onto this bridge over the Han River, where Mr. Yoon is about to jump.
Yep.
And they're yelling for him to stop, and he jumps. So we see Mr. Yoon, who will come back later, commit suicide off the bridge, which apparently happens a lot.
I'm not really sure that
on the Han River.
The only issue I had with that is when it shows him falling, it doesn't seem like it's that far. And quite frankly, I feel like if he would have hit that distance, he wouldn't have died. But you know what? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't...
Whatever.
I don't know. You're right. It's not like hugely high.
It wasn't like the Golden Gate Bridge. You know, I don't know. I'm just saying.
But apparently people do commit suicide on the bridges of the Han River all the time. So apparently it is actually possible.
Okay. I'm just saying.
On some of the bridges, at least.
Sure.
Which is really sad, but that is an unfortunate fact of life that happens.
Yep.
So then we get the title, The Host, in Korean.
Yep.
And we come to our main character, Park Gang-do. He's lying asleep at the counter of his food truck.
Yep.
Or I don't know if it's a truck or like a little shack.
It's a little shack.
I think it's like a little shack. Yeah, I keep calling it truck, but it's a little shack.
It's almost like a food kiosk in a way.
Yeah. It's a little shack on like the quote unquote beach. Like there's not really sand, but there's like a little park area at the edge of the Han River.
Yep.
And so he has his little food shack, and a little boy tries to steal something, but an older boy stops him. And then Park Hye-bong, who is Gang-doo's father, shows up and makes the sale for him. And then Gang-doo wakes up. And so then Gang-doo is cooking on a barbecue outside. He's cooking squid.
Yeah.
And he's just like munching on one of the legs.
Yeah.
And then he just leaves the squid alone on the barbecue and runs to see his daughter, Park Hyun-seo, something like that. She's coming back from school. And so he just leaves the stuff there, and his father like has to take it over. And she's complaining about like how old her phone is, and it's crappy and doesn't work very well. And they go inside the shack. And then Gang-doo shows Hyun-seo his savings that he's got in change, in like
and she's like full of dimes and quarters.
Yeah,
and...
she's like, what is that? And whatever they would call it. She's like, what is that? It's all nickels. And he's like, there's some quarters in there. And then on TV, they see news about Mr. Yoon's body being found in the river. And then the archery competition comes on that Gang-doo's sister, Namju, is competing in. And Bong asks Gang-do if he ate one of the legs off of the squid because there's a customer complaining that their squid only had 9 legs and it should have 10. And he denies it, but he's like, I think he's like actually like pulls it out and starts chewing on it like immediately after he says he didn't do it.
Right.
So he takes food, Gang-do takes food to one of the mats on the shore where people are like sitting, like having a little picnic. And they're all looking at this dark mask that's dangling off of the bottom of the bridge near them over the river. And this mask, which we will shortly see as the creature, Bong Joon-ho, the director, and the designer, nicknamed it Steve Buscemi.
Wow.
Based on the actor's screen personality and the way he was in Fargo.
I love Fargo. It's one of my favorite movies.
So yeah, Fargo was a great movie, but I don't know where they named that. So anyways.
I'm not going to get it.
The creature's name is Steve.
Okay, Steve. Kind of like Jaws is named Bruce. Okay.
Right. Jaws is named Bruce. This
Bruce
creature is named Steve.
All right, Bruce and Steve.
So this mask that they're seeing dangling from the thing drops off the bridge and into the water, and people are like taking photos and videos. And
you should be running for your life. If I saw that thing, I would be in my car and I'd be out of the state within half an hour.
It's not cool. And Gang-do like throws the soda in.
Oh, people just start throwing trash.
It grabs it, and so people just start throwing stuff in to see if it'll eat it, but it seems to be gone. And then they see it running along the riverbank towards them.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, oh wow, we're in trouble.
And it's huge. And the crowd just panics.
And it's gross.
And this is the beast's first appearance, right? And it's 5 minutes into the movie, maybe. Mm-hmm. Like, how rare is that for a monster movie?
Right.
And
in the middle of the day. It's not like dark outside. It's like the middle of the day, right?
Yeah, it's the middle of the day. We see it fully.
Right.
And Bong Joon-ho said that, like, he wanted to be that way. Like, he didn't want to do the normal, like, we're not going to show it to you until the bitter end kind of thing.
Right.
Like, he because he wanted it to be there so that he could tell the story of this family and how they're affected by it, rather than it being about the monster.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting choice that he made. And I think it worked really well.
That thing is pretty gross.
Yeah. So when it's running along the riverbank, its tail slaps a guy into the river, and there is a Wilhelm Scream.
Oh, is
which
there in there?
We talked about, remember, in our episode on audio.
Of course.
So for those who don't remember, the Wilhelm Scream was a scream that was recorded, I don't know, in the 40s or something, I think we said. And
it's a very long time ago.
Yeah, a very long time ago. And it's used now. It's like kind of like an Easter egg for people to use it in their movies when they're screaming.
I don't think I noticed it, but okay,
to use this one recording. I didn't notice it either. I found this.
Okay.
I found this on IMDb. I did not notice it myself.
I see.
It was well hidden.
Yeah.
So Gang-do runs away, and then he sees some people get stuck in a large trailer, and the monster gets inside the trailer with them.
You're watching it and you're thinking, don't go in there, because that's probably the worst idea. God. And they all go in there.
And the one lady like doesn't make it in.
Oh man.
The one lady doesn't make it in, and then she's lucky because she didn't make it in.
Yes. Oh
so
my
it gets
God.
in there, and blood is oozing out. Like, and there's a.
That's an exciting.
They all go in one side, and there's doors on the other side.
Right.
And so Gang-do and this American are like trying to open the back doors. So they get the back doors open so that the people who are still alive at least can get out.
Mm-hmm.
And the American guy, it's like some young military.
Right. He's all gung-ho.
Clean cut guy. Right. He's very gung-ho. Yeah. Right. He keeps saying, you keep hearing him say like, I have to go help. And his I'm just assuming his Korean, I'm assuming girlfriend is like, no, come with me. And he's like, no, I have to go help.
I have to help.
It's they poke a little fun at Americans here. I don't think in a mean, angry way, but they definitely poke a little fun at us, which is pretty.
It's okay.
Is kind of enjoyable for me, at least. I think it's funny.
It's funny, yeah.
So the American guy throws a stone at the monster. And then they pick up this large sign that's got like concrete all around the bottom of the...
It's like a parking sign. It's like a no parking sign anchored in concrete, right?
It's anchored in concrete, yeah. And so they throw that at the thing, and it turns around and like starts to eat the American
right, which is a terrible idea, obviously, but whatever.
It's gonna eat whoever it's gonna eat, right?
Yeah.
So it turns around and starts eating the American, and Gangdu grabs the sign and like slams it down on the thing's tail.
Right.
And then we see on TV Namju is still competing. She holds her shot too long, and the announcers say now she can't get higher than a bronze.
Yep.
So Hyunseo leaves the shack. Excuse me, I keep saying truck, but it's a shack. Hyunseo leaves the shack, and Gangdu sees her and grabs her hand, and he pulls her along, running away from the monster. But he trips, and then suddenly looks back, and he's holding some other girl's hand, and he can't find Hyunseo. And he turns just in time to see the monster grab her and dive into the water.
Yep.
So he jumps in.
Tail around her, right?
Yeah, it wraps its tail around her, and it like dives into the water, and she's like just laying there limp.
Dead. She's just like, yeah.
But she's limp.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't appear to be awake.
Right.
And so he jumps in and he tries to swim after her, but he can't make it. Like the thing's gone. Oh, and here's another little tidbit. To make the splash effects when the monster would dive into the water, they used metal barrels.
Okay.
I guess they just threw them in the water to make the splash.
Sound. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's always simple.
Yeah. So then we see Gangdu sitting in the truck with his change bucket. And we hear someone announcing over like a loudspeaker that that people need to evacuate the area. So barricades are set up around the area down by the river there, and the military is there. And then we see a ton of displaced people. They're all in a large gymnasium.
Yep.
Namju shows up with her bronze medal.
Yep.
And they say, your auntie is here with the bronze medal for you. And they're crying over Hyunseo's, they're crying over her photo, and there's like a wall of people who are lost their monster.
Yeah,
and Gangdu's brother Park Nam-il shows up and starts crying too, and they're in this huddle, just like wailing in the middle of the gym. And I don't know if you noticed this, because I don't think I did the first time I saw it, but there's photographers like all over, like running around taking photos of them crying.
Yeah.
They're such vultures. It's great.
That's what they do.
It's what you do. And then they start fighting because Namil blames Gangdu for it happening. So then they're like dogpiling on each other, fighting.
You know what it reminded? It reminds me of the funeral for little Gage in Pet Sematary, when the dad and the father-in-law start fighting at the funeral. It almost, because like it's a somber thing, like they're mourning these people that died. It just kind of reminds me of, I don't know. I guess because I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I can't think of another movie where there's like a fight that happens at a funeral or something. So I just thought of that.
I think this is the moment where if you didn't already know that this movie was going to have some humor to it, now you know. Mm-hmm. Because that is a funny scene.
I mean, I love a scary movie, but something you can throw in some comedy in there is always a good thing, right? So.
Yeah, and apparently, Bong Joon-ho said he doesn't like write to comedy, but just the way he writes things just happen to sort of come out kind of funny. Like,
it's good. It's okay. It works.
So then they're talking about Hyunseo's mom and wondering if she even knows that Hyunseo is dead. So this is just a little bit of a, what's the word? Story for us, just a little bit of background for us. So they're saying, oh, does she even know Hyunseo's dead? Well, she probably not. She ran off right after giving birth to her. So, she probably doesn't even know. And then a man in a hazmat suit comes in, and he announces that anyone who was at the scene or came in contact with those at the scene should raise their hands. And, Do is one of the people who raises his hands, and then he admits that,
He didn't touch
well,
it,
the
but he got
creature-
the blood on him.
yeah,
Yeah.
did you touch it? I didn't touch it, but some of its blood got sprayed on me, and they're like,
lockdown.
get him! Yeah, they're like, get him now!
I mean, you can't blame him. Like, that's what you have to do, right? Yeah.
Sure, they're like freaking out. So they grab him, and then we hear the news, because people are like, well, why do you need to know? And they let the news tell it, and they hear the news say that a U.S. soldier who fought the beast, which I think is the American who we saw fighting with Gangdu, fighting the beast with Gangdu. They say that this American soldier lost an arm, and now he has this strange, deadly virus. And they're sending in special forces to hunt the monster that are like specially trained for biohazard stuff.
Specially trained monster hunters.
Yes. So now the family's in a hospital with a bunch of other people, and Gangdu is complaining that his back itches. And then a doctor comes to tell Gangdu not to eat because he has to get a bunch of tests tomorrow.
Right.
But that night he's sneaking food.
Of course.
I don't know what that was that he was eating, like little baby squids or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that was.
Calamari, but like cold calamari in water or something.
I don't know, man.
It was like, it made me think of like people eating sardines.
Okay.
The way they're packaged, except that it looked like it was like a little snail or a little squiddy thing or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was.
So he's up late at night sneaking food, and he gets a call, and it's Hyun-seo. And she doesn't have much reception, but she tells him she's in a big sewer and it's really deep. So then we see two men in hazmat suits. I love this part. They drive by the river, and one of them gets out of the car because he finds $1. He sees $1 in the sewer, and so he stops.
You know what? I find money like every couple months outside. I swear, I found a $50 bill like 3 months ago outside.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing!
If I see money, I'm probably stopping too. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember once, it was like when I was in college, I stopped. There was money in a doorway, and all my friends stepped right over it. And I reached down and picked it up, and it was a 20. And then they were all like, "Oh man, I stepped over it because I thought it was just a 1." And I was like, "That's why you don't leave it."
Even if it was $1, you got to go for it. You can buy something with $1. Come on,
I'm
now.
like, that's why you don't leave it there.
Jeez.
Pick it up.
Always, man.
So one of them gets out of the car to like get $1 out of the sewer, and the monster grabs him and takes it to his lair, and it drops him into this big, deep sewer with Hyun-seo.
You're like, okay, yeah, he's not like killing all these people. He's like dropping them off somewhere.
I mean, some of them are dead. Like, because there are a few dead people in there with her, and this guy appears to be dead.
But he's whether they're dead or alive, he's dumping the bodies in this one place, right?
Yeah. I think he's like saving them for later when he's not hungry or something.
Right,
like,
snacks.
I'm not hungry right now, so I'll just stock up.
I need this for later at midnight. Yes.
Like, yeah. When I get a little munchy,
that's
then
right.
I'll come back to my little sewer room and grab someone.
Gross.
So Hyun-seo comes out from where she was hiding in a tunnel in like the wall. So it's like a wall. It's a tunnel in the wall, not like in the floor. It's just up the wall a little bit.
Yeah.
And so she was hiding in there, and she comes out to try to help the guy that got dropped in, but he's dead.
Yeah.
And now we're back with Gangdu, who tries to tell an official at the hospital that Hyun-seo isn't dead, but the official doesn't believe him. And Gangdu is like trying to demonstrate how she was eating, like with his phone. Like he's like the phone. He's trying to make it like the phone is her, and I'm the monster. And he like puts the phone in his mouth. He's like, and I ate her, but he's not dead. And he like drops it in the trash can, and they're all like, "This guy's crazy."
Right? Whatever, dude. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah, they're like, "This guy's just nuts. Like, we don't know what he's even trying to talk about or say to us." So the family makes a break for it. But they get made. But they managed to get into an elevator, and they change into their regular clothes while they're like riding the elevator because they had been in hospital gowns. And they jump into this van and just go. And the men who picked them up in the van quote the dad, this Bong, this who's I guess really the granddad because Gangdu is the dad of Hyun-seo.
Yes.
Anyway, so they quote Haebong a really large fee. And like the whole family looks all astounded. And then basically it's clear they don't have the money. So they're just like, we'll just take your credit card. And they just take his whole wallet.
Yeah.
But they give them a beat up fumigation truck.
Yep.
A few crappy rifles.
Mm-hmm.
2 hazmat suits that don't match the hazmat suits that all the other people are wearing.
Right.
And a map of the sewers.
All right.
So they've helped them escape, and they're I don't know how Haebong got them to help them escape, but he managed to arrange it, and they now have all this stuff.
And they're good. Yeah, yeah.
So the family drives into the containment area, and they get stopped, and the man suspects that it's Gang-do in the passenger seat.
Mm-hmm.
But Haebong bribes him with Gang-do's change stash, and they continue on. And apparently, this is a thing in South Korea. For someone in Haebong's like generation of his age, it actually would be pretty typical to like try and bribe somebody. Like that's kind of the way the world worked in their generation.
Okay.
Which doesn't surprise me too much because when I went to China many years ago, they were doing that. Like we were with a tour guide, and she was like paying people off. Like she was like buying scalped tickets to the Great Wall and stuff. Like,
that's awesome.
Like whenever we went to an event, like instead of buying the tickets officially, she would like, like literally once pulled off on the side of the road in the big van and met another van on the side of the highway.
Right.
And she went and gave them money, and they gave her the tickets for the next place we were going.
And it's funny because it's just, part of everyday life probably for them. And you're looking at it as an American, like, what are these people doing? Like, what's going on here, right?
Yeah, like we were like, this is shady. And for them, it was just like, this is the way we do things.
Yeah, that's like, the way we do it. Exactly. For us, it's weird. But yeah, it's so interesting to see that kind of stuff,
Yeah, so it's just a very different like way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
So they get out to the water and into the sewer system, and they're walking through the tunnels, and they're calling for Hyunseo.
And it's gross in there, and it's so nasty.
And those gross locations are mostly real locations that are under the Wonhyo Bridge.
I don't know that. I mean, you know what? It's cool to be authentic and shoot in there, I suppose. So that's pretty cool. They did that.
Yeah. So the only set that they built for those underground locations was the creature shelter, the deep room that it puts the people in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and where it's later sleeping. So as they drive to the next section of the sewer, Gang-do is running behind the truck in the fumigation.
Yes.
And they're like,
what is he doing? Yeah.
Yeah, the grandfather's like, the brother and sister are like, what the hell is he doing? And the grandfather's like, he's trying to get rid of the virus so he won't pass it on to Hyunseo.
This will probably take care of it, I'm sure. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and Namil doesn't even believe there is a virus.
Right.
Like, he's like, whatever. So they wander through more sewers, and then they see movement in the dark, and they fire in the dark, into the dark. But then they realize they're just seeing the movement of water.
Always a good idea to shoot at something, right?
But behind a low wall that they're like walking past, there's a teenage boy with a little kid on his back. Mm-hmm. And he's making his way in the other direction. And he says, I love this line. He says, "Did you pee?" And the little boy says, "A little because of the shooting."
Yeah. Yeah, that was good.
And so the two of them get to the Han River. They get out of the sewer into the Han River, and they steal food from the Park family's shack, from their little convenience store shack. Yeah. But the teenager won't let the boy steal any money, only food. And this is something called, I think the teenager actually says it's called seori.
Yeah.
Which is not something that we really understand in Western society, but it's this culture in Korea where young kids will steal food, and it's usually like melons, some sort of melon. And it's not like considered to be criminal. It's just mischievous.
Yes, mischievous.
And if they're caught, they won't be arrested. They won't be turned in. They just get scolded. They get no-no'd.
How about that? Nowadays, a 6-year-old kid still something cop's going to throw cuffs on him. How about that?
Right? So I thought that was interesting, too, that it's this little, like, sort of like, oh, they're just going to try and steal the melon. So naughty, naughty children.
Right. Slap on the wrist for you.
Yeah. So outside, they get outside and they spot the monster and they run. And then the family gets back to the truck, the Park family, and they're eating instant ramen. And then suddenly we see Hyun-seo with them.
Yep.
And they're all like feeding her an egg, ramen, like different things. But really, she's in the sewer catching rainwater to drink out of her hand.
Yep.
And I thought this scene was really weird.
Okay.
That we like see her with them when they're eating.
Yeah.
It's a little out of place and odd, but the director said he really thought it was important to give the whole family, including the daughter, like one last like quiet moment together.
Okay.
So that's why he included her in the scene of them eating in the shack.
Okay. All right.
Like he wanted to get one last moment with the whole family together.
Okay.
So I can see that, but definitely like I remember when I saw it the first time, I'm like, what? Why was she there and then not there? What?
Like he wants to follow through with his intention, but it may have been confusing to audience. I guess maybe something like that.
It was a little bit confusing to me when I first saw it.
Okay.
Seeing this where I saw that this is what his intent was, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right,
but like
right.
at first I was a little like, why did that happen?
The context isn't always there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and again, it may be a Western thing that I'm not getting something that to a Korean audience would be like, oh yeah, of course, like they're all feeling like she's there and
Right.
it would like just make perfect sense to them. So maybe the first time I saw it, I just didn't get it because I didn't have the same context.
That's interesting though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was neat. So she's trying to catch rainwater and drink out of her hand, and the monster comes and she pretends to be dead. And it lowers the teenager.
Probably a good idea. That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
That's what I would have done too.
Yeah, definitely a good idea. Either pretend to be dead or hide in the tunnel. That's those are your two options.
Yeah.
So it lowers the teenager and the little boy into the sewer, and she tries to wake the teenager up, but she can't. The monster comes back, and she holds the little boy to keep him quiet until it's gone. And then she checks on the teenager. The teenager's dead. So it's just Hyun-seo and the little boy now.
Mm-hmm.
Who I know the little boy. We find out his name later, but I can't. I didn't write it down. I can't remember what it is. I just keep calling him the little boy.
Little boy, that works.
So the rest of the family gets ready to go out again, but Gang-do is asleep. And Namil and Namju want to leave him behind because they think he's worthless and he's just, he's no help.
Right.
But Hye-bong tells them about this story about Gang-do as a kid.
Yeah, he's a little boy, right?
And this whole thing about like how he was really smart. People used to ask him for directions on the street. That's how smart he looked.
Yeah.
And basically that he was like, I was drinking a lot and like he was deprived of protein.
He was never around and
I wasn't around and he was deprived of protein. So ever since then, sometimes he just falls asleep.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Yeah. And so he's, and I love it. Like it cuts to Namil and Namju and they're both like falling asleep from the story.
Yes. Yes.
And then basically he just is like, just don't be mean to Gang-do. Like he can't help it. Don't be mean to him.
He's just whatever.
Yeah. Like he's like, just leave him alone. And so Gang-do wakes up like as he's saying this and says, it's watching us.
And then I don't understand. Why would you then get out your gun and shoot that thing?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. So they look through the crack in the door. They see the monster sitting outside and Hye-bong, the grandfather, grabs the rifle and shoots at it.
And what did you think was going to happen to you?
And what happens? It rushes the truck. The shack, and it tips the shack over.
I mean, I know it's a movie. It's predictable. The audience knows it's going to happen, whatever. But it's like, come on, dude, don't do that.
But then it sticks its face through the like front window, like where the counter is.
Yep.
And he fires on it again. And this time it falls over in the grass.
Yep.
And here's another tidbit. Another little tidbit. I don't know. I might start saying, here's another tidbit. So Bong Joon-ho was pressured to have less full-on shots of the creature's face and do more in profile because that was cheaper.
Okay.
And then also he had to like get rid of some of the shots that he planned. He had like 180 shots when he was
Wow.
doing his storyboard,
Okay.
and he had to cut it down to like 120.
Mm.
So this creature was very expensive.
Yeah, they usually
And
are.
it was too much for their budget, what he
Yeah.
wanted to do.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
So they get out of the truck, and the monster's laying there. And Nam-il shoots it, and it gets up and runs away. And they follow and fire at it until it's gone.
Right.
And then as the monster comes back, Hye-bong tells his kid to get to the shack. See, I keep saying truck. Get to the shack, and he'll take Gangju's rifle because Gangju said it had one shot left.
Yeah.
And he'll shoot the creature.
Yep.
And meanwhile, Namju, she like tries to take it down with archery, but Nam-il grabs her and drags her away.
Yeah, I was like, all right.
Yeah. He drags her away to the shack. So Hye-bong shoots at the monster point blank.
Yep.
But the rifle just clicks.
Yep. So no shot left, buddy. And then he knows he's done at that point. He's like, all right.
He knows he's done.
He waves him
and
to tells him to
Gangju
keep
knows
going.
too. Gangju like sees it and realizes like, oh shit, I miscounted. I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And the monster kills Hye-bong and leaves. And
Steps on him.
it's Gangju's fault. Like Gangju knows it. He's like, I did this because I thought I had one shot left. So the soldiers are coming and they have to run. But Gangju goes back to like, he's like looking at his dad, and the soldiers get him. And then we see the news again, and they tell us that the soldier who had the virus has died, and that 2 of the 3 remaining infected family members, which they're talking about the Park family, are still on the loose.
Yep.
So Hye-bong has died. They've got Gangju, but Nam-il and Namju are still on the loose. So the U.S. is going to use Agent Yellow to kill the virus, and on the
Agent
street,
Yellow. We don't want that Agent Orange crap. We're using only Agent Yellow.
Agent Yellow to kill the virus.
Lord. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
And I love this on the street. There's like all those people in masks watching a large display with the news on it.
Yeah.
And it says, Mr. Park is showing signs that look like the common cold. And this man is like, and everyone just sidles away from him.
You just like watching this, like, it's just gross, right? Yeah.
And then it gets even better because he lifts his mask and hawks a loogie into the gutter.
Car drives by and splashes everything back up at him.
Yeah. And everybody gets splashed, and they're all like, ah!
Yep. It's just like
it's
watching.
Just so it's so smartly done.
Watching it happen. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, it's so smart. It's so well done. So then we see Nam-il is walking down the street at night, and he hears a police siren, so he hides in the shadows in an alley. And his old friend, who used to be an activist with him, shows up and steals a jacket from a dry cleaner's for him. And then he sneaks Nam-il into a telecom firm that he works at, that the friend works at, so they can find Hyun-seo from her earlier cell phone call. While Nam-il is looking at the computer, his friend goes into another room, and there's a bunch of men hiding there.
It's like 10 dudes.
And he's turning Nam-il in for the bounty.
Yep.
So they come out, and Nam-il, I love this. He uses a paperclip.
We had seen these posters throughout the movie, like, but the family did not know this, though. They didn't know they were like wanted, right?
I don't know if they knew until now.
Yeah, right. That's what I meant. Yeah.
I think, in fact, no. Right before this, when he's in the alley, he sees the sign.
Yeah.
Nam-il sees the sign, so he knows before he goes into the telecom building. But yeah, I don't know that he knows before that. So Nam-il takes a paperclip and sticks it on the plug.
Right in the
and then
socket.
Puts it in the outlet, and it shorts all the lights out. So now it's dark, so he runs.
It's a good idea.
But he gets hurt while he's escaping. And so he jumps over, I guess, like an overpass and lands underneath it. And he's hurt, and he tries calling Namju, but there's no answer. So he just texts her and says, Wonhyo Bridge. Because that's where he found out that Hyun-seo is. Namju is still out searching, so when she gets back to the shack and she charges her phone, she gets the text, and she runs all the way to the bridge. And when she gets there, she calls Gangju to tell him, But then the monster comes out of nowhere, and she aims her bow and arrow at it. But much like in her bronze medal winning
mishap,
she doesn't pull
Yep.
quick enough.
Yep.
And the monster knocks the bow and arrow out of her hand, and she goes over the wall and into this narrow part of the sewer where it can't reach her.
And I thought she would probably be dead because she smacked the crap out of her and she took a spill, man. Yeah.
Yeah, but she doesn't die.
No, she doesn't die.
She just gets knocked into this little like narrow part of the sewer. And then Gang-do is, in the hospital again, and he tries to get the doctors to let him leave. He tries to run for it, but they tackle him and they anesthetize him, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. So they're like, why is he like that? Like, he's like sitting there and they're like, why is he like that? And they're like, well, just take the tissue samples anyway.
Yeah.
So they stick this giant needle in his neck.
Man, that was
big, huge biopsy needle. Yeah. And he's just screaming.
Wouldn't you? I mean, yeah, that'd be terrible.
Oh, yeah, I totally would. Woo. And then an American doctor shows up and makes them stop. And I love this scene, too. He asks Gang-do, like, is your daughter really still alive? And he's asking, like, through a translator. And he doesn't understand. Yeah, he's like, well, then why didn't you tell the police or the military? Or, you could have contacted a human rights organization. And Gang-do's just like, nobody listens to me.
Yeah, no one cares.
And he starts crying. And the American doctor turns to the translator, who I guess is a doctor too, and is like, well, the virus has clearly entered his brain.
Right.
And he says, this man's brain is our last hope. The virus must be in here.
Right.
And then the Korean doctor, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, oh, you don't know? And he's like, okay. So nobody knows this, but
wink, wink.
The soldier who died of the virus had an autopsy done, and no virus was found.
It's all no
traces were found. Yeah, and no traces were found in any of the patients quarantined.
No, it's all
and
made
Gang-do, what he can understand, although he doesn't speak English, is no virus.
Yeah, and look, yeah, he got that part.
He's like, no virus?
Yeah.
No virus? But he can't get away, and next thing we know, he's getting his head screwed into this contraption to keep it still, and they're getting ready to drill into his skull.
Reminds me of that scene in Casino when they put the guy's head in the vice, and that's what it kind of reminded me of.
Oh yeah, man. I was just thinking about what's it where they used to stick the pike into your eye socket.
Yeah, that's
painful. To lobotomize you.
That's not very pleasant.
Yeah, no, but that's what I was thinking about.
Sure.
So back in the sewer, Hyunseo and the little boy are talking, and she's tying together clothes, and she puts a stick on the end and throws the stick up onto the grate.
Yep. And
they can't reach it because it's too high. But then the monster's coming, so they have to go hide in the tunnel. And it leans over the edge and pukes out.
Oh, dude, that was so nasty.
A bunch of bones and then a can of beer.
Like 100, not 100, like 50 bodies. It's so gross.
It's like just bleh, and it just nasty. All these bones. It's like an owl or something where they digest everything, and then the bones they just go and hack up the bones.
That was so nasty.
So then it eats one of the dead people.
Yes.
And then meanwhile, Gang-do is getting a head bandage removed from his head and blood drawn, and he just sits like a vegetable until finally the nurse is drawing the blood, and he grabs the nurse and grabs the needle from her, and he threatens her with it like he's gonna inject her with his virus-laden blood.
Terminator 2, remember? Yeah. That's what it reminds me of.
But he knows Bleach. That he doesn't have a virus.
Right, they don't know that.
But nobody else knows that. So he's threatening her with this needle, and he's threatening everybody else with it.
Yeah,
and he makes them open the doors, and he gets out. And it's the hospital he's in actually turns out to be like a big old setup, tent set up in the containment zone.
Right, it's not
it's not like a building.
Right.
So he gets away, and then Nam-il meanwhile wakes up underneath the overpass, and there's a homeless man there, and he asks him where Wonhyo Bridge is, and the man won't tell him at first, but then he's like, I'm bored anyway. So he helps him make Molotov cocktails while they take a taxi to Wonhyo Bridge together.
After he busts a bottle, he breaks a beer bottle over his head, right? Remember?
Oh, right, because he's like, can I have these bottles? And he's like, whack, cracks him over the head. And then he's like, whatever, I'm bored anyway. Let's go.
Dude, I think I might be out if you busted a bottle over my head, but he just keeps going.
Nope, he just keeps going.
Man.
So he rides to Wonhyo Bridge with the homeless man, and they're making Molotov cocktails in the back seat. I don't know what this taxi driver must think is going on.
But didn't he say he's paying him like quadruple or something like that? He told
something
him?
like that, yeah.
So what? He don't care.
So then Gang-do arrives at Wonhyo Bridge, and he runs under it, and he's calling for Hyun-seo.
That kind of remind you almost of I feel like it reminded me for some parts of 28 Days Later when he's wandering around in his hospital outfit, like kind of thing. I don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely that
reminded me of it. Yeah,
sort of rundown interstitial spaces where nobody really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like it's a busy city type of place, but there's nothing there, and it's everything seems a little off.
It just kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, definitely. So he's running under the bridge, like calling for Hyun-seo, and then Hyun-seo is laying down with the little boy, and he's sick and he has a fever. So she sneaks out of their tunnel, and the monster's asleep in the sewer with him. She throws the beer can at it, but it doesn't wake up.
No, it's out.
So she tells the little boy, like, you stay here. Whatever happens, don't come out.
Right.
And she runs up the creature's back.
That's pretty awesome.
And she grabs the end of the clothing rope that they couldn't reach before. And then we see her suddenly, like, we don't see her feet, right? She grabs the rope, she's dangling there.
You don't know what's happening. Right.
And then she just sort of raises up, and you realize, oh God, the creature just stood up.
Got her with the tail and wrapped her around her, yeah.
And it, wraps its tail around her.
Right.
Puts her back down on the floor of the sewer without even waking up, really.
Yeah.
And so she runs for the tunnel, and Thing comes after her.
Yep.
And then
was that great shot of it when he's chasing them and he's about to like close his mouth on him, and it cuts to the next scene, which is like so good. And it cuts
to Gang-do getting to the sewer that Hyun-seo is in.
Excellent.
And he climbs down the clothing rope, but then the monster shows up above him with her arm hanging out of its mouth. Mm-hmm. And so he immediately just starts pulling himself up again.
Yeah.
And Namju gets there, and they follow the creature, and they're yelling for Hyun-seo. And then they get out, like outside, and there's this huge protest against Agent Yellow, and people are wearing shirts for like free Gang-do.
T-shirt with him on it. Oh my God, I love it.
It's so cute. God. I want that shirt so bad. I would totally wear that.
Oh, I guarantee you could find that online somewhere. There's got to be somewhere.
I would wear that shirt. Like, I would so wear that shirt.
Do a search. There's got to,
free Gang-do.
Someone's got to have that.
So the monster shows up at the protest, and the U.S. drops the Agent Yellow that everybody's protesting,
and
like just drops it on them, jacks people up totally. Like, so the monster starts thrashing,
and
Gang-do grabs his daughter's arm, and he pulls her and the little boy out.
Yep,
and she's dead, and he holds her and he cries. And Nam-il shows up as more Agent Yellow gets sprayed onto the creature, and people are like throwing up blood,
it's
bleeding
nasty.
from their ears,
like hemorrhaging, like they're
they're like literally just like blood coming out of every orifice.
But that's what that stuff does to it. It's awful. It's just God.
Yeah, Agent Orange is
dude,
horrible nightmare, and should never be used and never have been used. Anyways. So the Park family is crying over Hyun-seo, and then Gang-do grabs a sign, and he starts stabbing at the creature, and Nam-il throws Molotov cocktails at it.
I love watching that. Just
the homeless man climbs up on the bridge above the creature and pours gasoline on it, and it drinks the gasoline.
Okay. So that was my question. This thing like enjoys drinking this gasoline, right? Or gas or whatever it is. Like the monster enjoys it, right? I think it's just
too dumb to know. It's like I'm not in the water, and this is a liquid. Yum.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a stupid monster, obviously. But
right. It's just it's basically man. it's a big
Stupid dog.
mutated fish.
Yeah, I mean,
No, it's a mutated fish,
well,
basically.
it's like any animal that
or like
no,
a mutated tadpole or something.
Yeah, it's just stupid. Whatever.
Yeah, like this is not like a mean, evil creature. It's just
that's what it is.
A dumb monster. Like
right. It is right. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's just a dumb monster. So it drinks the gasoline. Namil tries to throw the last Molotov cocktail, but he drops it.
Yeah.
So Namju dips her arrow in the flame.
Then that part reminded me
of... And that's her moment.
I was thinking of like Robin Hood, the old joint with Kevin Costner when he shoots the arrows that are on fire.
Well, and it has to work because it's her third try.
Of course. She's going, she's
right. She's messed it up twice.
Right.
This time she's got to do it.
And
so
she lights him on
pulls
fire.
that arrow back in the bow.
Yep, it's awesome.
She lets it fly, and the monster goes up in flames.
Yep, love it.
And it tries to get to the water, but Gangdu gets in front of it.
He busts
with this sign pole.
Right around the corner. Yeah, and he
he busts around the corner with this pole, and he just like slams it down its throat.
Yep.
And he's like holding it and like being pushed back a little bit until it finally falls over dead.
And I love
when he lets go of the end of the pipe, he's got that like big circle mark on his hand.
He's got the imprint in his hand.
It's been pushing all right onto his hand.
Yep, yeah. Like a giant like an instant blister.
I love that. It's such a good like small way to show like, oh my God, that was really hard. Like that was insanely hard for him to do.
That's crazy, right?
So now Gangju goes over to the little boy, and Namju holds Hyunseo, and the little boy wakes up, and Gangju carries him away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cut to, it's winter at the little food shack, and there's a photo of Gangju and the little boy on the wall of the food shack. And Gangju sees something outside, and he picks up his rifle, but it's nothing. And the little boy's asleep on a mat on the floor. And Gangju puts out the food, a little low table and food. And the little boy sits up, and they sit on the floor, and they eat their food.
Chow down, yeah.
And the TV is on, and the news is talking about the recent crisis in Korea and the use of Agent Yellow and stuff. And so, Gangju's like, do you want to watch something else? And the kid's like, turn it off so we can concentrate on eating.
Right. I don't want to watch this crap.
Yeah, so we can concentrate on eating. So I saved this for the end because I didn't want to, and that's the end of the movie. Yep. But I saved this tidbit for the end because I didn't want to do it until we got through all the footage. But some of the footage in the news shows is from the Iraq War.
Oh, really?
And apparently that was partially because Bong Joon-ho wanted to sort of satire the fact that much like there was no virus, there also were no weapons of mass destruction.
No WMDs? No weapons of mass destruction? Oh.
So says Bong Joon-ho, at least. But so, he was like playing on that.
Right.
Yeah. We've been looking for those for a long
time. Those whole weapons of mass destruction, my goodness.
So the other thing that I found that I think is awesome, this film, it was at least until like 10 or so years ago, it was like the biggest film in South Korea. Like for a while.
It was pretty big.
It was so huge that they built a statue of the creature on the bank of the Han River.
Oh, okay. So if I ever go to South Korea, I'm going to definitely make a stop. Okay, that is on the list of places.
Isn't that fantastic?
That's pretty cool.
So some countries respect their horror films, at least, if not the US, if not Hollywood.
I haven't seen it yet, and I feel bad about it because I hear about Train to Busan is supposed to be phenomenal. It's supposed to be a great Korean zombie movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I need to watch it. They make good stuff there. They do. They make good movies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
They do.
Yeah. They make cool stuff.
Yeah.
And good scary movies.
Yeah. This was good. I enjoyed it. It was very well. It was just well done. The shots look really nice. The framing's good. The composition's good.
Oh, some of the composition is mwah.
Yeah, like it's just
chef's kiss.
Every
Beautiful.
shot just seems to work. The shaky stuff that you see from time to time is fine. It totally works. The cuts are good. Everything's tight. Yeah, it was just very good. Like the sewer is gross. You don't want to be in there. Like you feel like gross and dirty when you're watching it. The monster he's nasty. I would never want to see that thing in person.
The characters are so well fleshed out.
Yeah, they're good.
And they're so likable.
Like they're just
Bong
like
Joon-ho
normal...
is a loser and you love him.
Yeah, these are just normal folks. These aren't people. This isn't some silly cast that no one cares about.
And
these
that's
are like real people.
That's something that Bong Joon-ho does. Like he Parasite, at the risk of, it won't ruin it for you, but
that's what we do here. We ruin.
Yeah, we ruin things. But it's a lot about the sort of war between lower and upper class.
Yeah.
And I think he deals a lot with the more middle to lower class people, and like they're giving them life and giving them personality and telling these stories about these real people who are not the Hollywood types that we see in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. I think it talks about a lot of stuff. It's interesting, the whole virus thing, but it's not a virus, and these cover-ups and these conspiracies and environmental stuff. It touches on a lot of things. I really enjoyed it. It was good.
I think this movie is a lot more than you expect it to be when you just know, oh, it's about a monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's a monster movie, and then you're watching and you're like, oh, it's so much more than just a monster. It's a monster movie. It's a conspiracy movie. It's a family drama.
Yeah.
It's all these things.
And that's pretty hard to do. I mean, God, you're making like 3 different movies in one. How about that? I mean, isn't that crazy? That's really interesting. But yeah, that is very good. I definitely was. It was good. The pacing was good. Like the first part, where the monster really shows up for the first time, you're kind of watching, you're like, oh man, this is really exciting, and all these people are getting attacked, and those scenes were great. And yeah, it was very good. I enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend watching it. It was very good.
So next up, we are doing a special Q&A for our 50th episode, and guys, it's going to be live on Friday the 13th.
So
that is next
those of
week.
You that have listened to us ramble 49 times, you get to listen to it a 50th. Wow.
Yep. One more time. We'll keep going for you.
But keep listening after that too.
Please don't stop with the 50th episode. No. We aren't going to stop with the 50th episode. So don't you either. Stick with us. It's going to get bigger. It's going to get better. I can't guarantee that, but that's what I think. And yeah, so we'll be on YouTube at, I believe, 8 p.m., right, Matt?
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, May 13th on our YouTube channel.
That's 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock in Alaska. So, and if you're in Hawaii, 2 p.m., I believe.
Holy.
Sorry about that. I wanted to give you all your time zones.
But 8 Eastern.
Yeah.
Well, and then all those other times.
I want everyone to know.
8 p.m. It's in the evening, not in the morning. Nope. We're not getting up that early. Nope. Nobody's getting up that early for this.
Nope.
And we're going to be doing a Q&A, so you can put your questions in the chat in YouTube, and we'll answer them. We're going to be talking about our careers as filmmakers and how we got involved in this stuff, and it's just going to be a fun old time.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah. So join us for that. It'll be live again on May 13th, which is a Friday.
We love it. We love it.
We love Friday the 13th.
Yeah. So
much here on this podcast. So let me remind you, please subscribe, follow the podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, wherever the heck you're listening. Follow us. Rate and review so people know about us and they can find us. And don't forget to send us your movie suggestions, your thoughts on movies we've watched so far, whatever you want to say to us. Just don't be mean, please, at thescarymovieproject@gmail.com. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Scary Movie Project. Peace out.
In one word, would I use dope? Nope.
The Scary Movie Project podcast is produced by Tara Garwood and Matt Lulich. Learn more at thescarymovieproject.com.